Good morning and welcome to another episode of Bubba's Garage. I hope you guys are having a fabulous day. Actually, it's not morning, it's about 11 o'clock, so it's kind of morning-ish. Right here on Bubba's Garage, we're going to cook some Bubba chili on the 28-inch Blackstone Griddle right here in the garage. Guys, we cook a ton of stuff on the Blackstone Griddle. We have the 28-inch here in the garage. We have a 17-inch that we're running on our rig, and we have the 36-inch out on the patio. First step, I want to tell you a little bit about the ingredients before we get started. So in our particular chili, we're going to use 2 pounds of turkey. Now keep in mind, you can use beef, you can use deer meat, any kind of meat that you want. We go with about 2 pounds on this. And this is the Bubba chili, so I call it like a quick fix chili. Not everything is completely from scratch. We're going to use some drained down ranch style beans. We're actually going to also use 2 cans of tomato sauce, 2 cans of petite diced tomatoes with green chilies. We got our chili pepper. I'm going to use a little bit of cayenne, not a lot, just depending on how spicy you want this stuff. And then we're going to add a pinch of cumin just to give it a little bit more pizzazz, and a tad bit of garlic salt. Now, we do have our veggies pre-cut and diced. We have 1 whole onion and 1 whole bell pepper here, and notice we have 2 of them. So that's 2 bell peppers and 2 onions. We're going to use the first bell pepper and onion in the first batch, and then, well, stick around. I'll show you exactly how that's going to line out. Before we ever get started on this, we need to get our griddle greased up, ready to go, get it nice and hot. Once we get it hot, then we'll throw on our meats. You want to let that oil get nice and hot before you throw on your meats. And guys, right here on Bubba's Garage, we actually do a lot of Jeep videos, and that's kind of what we're doing today. So it's kind of like a dinner and a movie kind of thing. We're actually going to do a Jeep install at the same time. So we're going to have this set up and cooking, because we're going to cook this for about 4 hours while we're doing our install video. Now that that's nice and warm, we're going to go over here. We're going to take out both of our meats. Now again, this is just 1 pound of turkey. We have another pound here, and you can make this your beef, your deer meat, any kind of meat that you want. I mean, heck, you could do ground chicken if you wanted to. This would still work out fairly well. We're going to let that meat cook up a little bit. While it's doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to drain all of the juices out of our ranch style beans. You don't want to lose the beans too much, but the idea here is you want the beans and you want a hint of the flavor from the beans, but adding all that juice is really going to die down your chili flavor. So take that juice out of those beans if at all possible. Now keep in mind, you probably can use some pinto beans or something like that. We actually have another recipe where we actually make all of this from scratch, including the beans. But this is the Bubba chili. It is our quick fix chili. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take all of these ingredients and start putting this together and getting this ready for the meat. So in doing that, we're going to take all of our beans. Notice I pulled out a good 1/4 cup of the juices from those beans. And now if you look down into this pot, you'll see that it's not really a lot of liquid at all. It's cleaned up fairly well. Now we're going to take 1 can of our tomato sauce. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Now here's my trick. Set that can aside. You're going to reuse it here in a minute. You can go ahead and take our 2nd can of tomato sauce. We're going to dump that in there. And this tomato sauce just adds makes your chili a little bit thicker, right? So now we're going to go ahead and open up 1 can of our petite diced tomatoes with green chilies. We're going to go ahead and pour the entire can, 1 can, into our mix here. We can go ahead and discard this can. We're going to set the other one aside for just a little bit. Now, we're going to take our pre-diced up 1 bell pepper, as well as 1 onion. We're going to pour those into this mix as well. All right, now take your tomato sauce cans that we set aside just shortly ago. What you're going to want to do is top these off with water. Basically, it's kind of a built-in measuring cup, and that's what makes this Bubba Chili quick and easy to do. And plus you get to rinse out some of that tomato sauce that you had left over in the can. Don't let any of that flavor go to waste. Discard those 2 cans. Now we're going to move on to our spices. But before we do that, let's check on this turkey. Oh yeah, it's cooking up nice and well over here. Now keep in mind right now, we're actually cooking this on medium heat. And the biggest reason for that is because we want it to cook, but we don't want it to cook too terribly fast while we're sitting over there prepping up our pot that this is going to go into. That's one thing about that turkey. You kind of have to play that whack-a-mole game and just beat the crap out of that turkey. You don't have to do that with beef. It just falls apart automatically. So coming back over to our pot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our spoon. We're going to need that to stir all of these ingredients up. But here's what we're going to do. We are going to add, first up, we're going to add our chili powder. Now, I'm really picky about my chili powder right here in Bubba's Garage. I prefer the Fancy Light. Any other chili powder just adds a different flavor to my chili that I'm just not really happy with. Fancy Light has just been the one that's stuck around, and guys, I have tried a lot of them. You don't need a sifter. You're actually going to put quite a bit in here. Now, I'm not going to tell you, I really don't have a good measurement. The best way that I know if the ingredients are right in some Bubba Chili is smelling it. If it smells right, then I know it's right. So I really apologize for that, but basically, I don't know, babe, what did that look like? I mean, not a quarter cup by any means, you know. Several big heaping teaspoons, maybe? Yeah, maybe, something like that. And I always set this aside because I may end up adding a little bit more after I get that smell going after it's been cooking for a little while. Now we're going to add in our pinch of cayenne. Now, depends on how hot or spicy you want this. We don't really add too much because, well, we have kids. Shelby doesn't like her chili really hot. I like it spicy, but we'll be gentle on it today. The cumin really gives it a really nice flavor. We're basically going to add about the same amount of cumin as I did for cayenne. Garlic powder, we're not going to add a lot. It's basically just a small hint. So it will probably be about the same as what we do for the cayenne and the cumin. Just about like that. All right, now we're going to stir all of this stuff up really good here. Notice how it's very, very liquidy right now, right? Well, once we put that meat in there, that'll dial that down a little bit, and then as we continue to cook it, some of that will eventually evaporate. Typically, you don't have to add any more water to it. The trick is going to be about your lid and about covering it, leaving it covered, and then taking the lid off when it gets closer to being done, and we'll show you that here a little later. Let's check on that meat. I believe that turkey is done did. We're going to bring in our pot over here. I'm going to set that nicely right next to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to move our meat from here over into our pot. We're going to let that sit for a minute while we clean up this griddle. All right. The reason you want to make sure that you clean that griddle up is because you're going to set that pot on there and you're going to use the griddle to cook the rest of this chili. So you want to make sure it's nice and clean. You don't want to cook any of that meat back down into the griddle. Clean it up really good. Now we can stir this up, kind of get that meat mixed in there really good. Now currently on this particular griddle, I have both burners turned on low. And at first that might seem like it's not high enough, but here's the thing. What we're going to do is we're going to put our lid on top of this thing, let this thing actually cook all those flavors all together inside of the pot for several hours. We're shooting for about 4 hours here, so what we're going to do in about 3 hours is we're going to use the rest of our ingredients. We're going to pour those in so that we have some fresh veggies right in the last hour of this cook. So stick around. We'll show you that here in just a moment. All right, now that we have our chili set up over on the griddle, that's going to cook up for a little while. If dinner and a movie is kind of your thing, definitely check out a previous or the upcoming video right here on Bubba's Garage, because the next video probably to this one is going to be the ARB air compressor install on the 2017 Jeep Wrangler Winter Edition. We're actually breaking down and we're heading to that right now. Gosh, guys, that smells great. It's been running for about 5 hours now. Our installation and playing around with the Jeeps took us a little longer than I expected. Now all we have to do is go ahead and add another can of our petite diced tomatoes, and as well as our raw veggies. Now keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, this is a whole onion as well as a whole bell pepper. You're going to take that and you're going to mix it up really nice together. You're going to let that cook up. Now this time, the difference this time with the Bubba chili is we're going to leave the lid off. Keep in mind, we've cooked the chili for 5 hours with the lid on, and that's just to get all those flavors nice and mixed. Right now, we're going to leave it off. We're going to let this cook for approximately another hour, and it's going to be ready to serve. And they say you can't cook chili on a griddle. Guys, honestly, you can cook anything on a griddle. You just got to cook it a little bit differently. This is my recipe for Bubba chili, or chili, whatever you want to call it. It's actually a really simple recipe. If you try it out, do me a favor, leave some comments down below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this chili. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you like this video, please give us a huge thumbs up. And if you really like this video and you want to stick around and find out what happens next right here on Bubba's Garage, please subscribe. Until next time, we'll see you on the flip side. Good night, everybody.